No idea.
It's on in its report, that's all I
Yeah,
know.
okay. Continue your roll call down the right.
Okay. Well, I think the roll call's complete.
It is complete.
Okay.
Okay, first item on the, approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any comments, additions, subtractions, or anything else regarding our agenda?
I will move we approve the agenda as written.
Second.
I have an approval, a motion, a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, approval of minutes from December 14th.
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
Any discussion of the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any, Jamie, Mr. Lowry, please note Mr. Lowry abstained, since he was not present. Okay. Next, we have, citizen comments, please. Don't make comments on anything that's on the agenda. Limit your comments, initial comments to 3 minutes, and it is limited to residents or property owners in Arundel. So do we have any citizen comments? Okay, that ends the citizen comment period. I guess Roger will have to come next time. All right, pending applications. Item 1, Ledgewood Meadows, a subdivision amendment. Why don't we allow either Mr. Labby or Mr. Gadboy to get started?
All right, thank you. I guess I'm just here this evening to kind of get the board's general opinion as to the project. I know there were some board members who was not really approving the road adjacent to the property line. I know that was something that, the way we laid it out in the field, was away from the property line. This is the actual layout in the field when we walked it. Since then, Mr. Labby wants to put the road right up against the property line for a couple of reasons. This configuration takes about an additional acre from the abutting property owner. And in hindsight, when I did the design that I submitted to you guys, this is of course what Mr. Labby wants. It meets the requirements for the commercial roadway for the 5% grade, and the width and all that good stuff. And you can see the cuts. So I went through the process to show how the same road design with a 5% grade, how that would look if we took the path that we did when we walked it. It's actually got similar or even looks like even greater cuts. It's just the way it is, the same road grades, and we didn't change the grades at all, still 5%, still maintain the exact high point, still maintain the exact low point as the road right up against the property line. So we still want to proceed with the road right up against the property line. I just want to make sure the planning board is okay and on board with that, because now this requires a DEP stormwater permit. So it gets a little bit more involved at this point. The original road that we built for Phil was a commercial road for the first 2 lots. We dumbed it down to a residential road for the remainder of the project up to the cul-de-sac. The cul-de-sac and that portion was residential. That needed a PBR permit by rule from DEP, just basically erosion control and stormwater erosion control measures. This, because of the width of the road, basically commercial road right to the end, triggered the over the acre of impervious. So this requires a DEP stormwater permit. I did do a little bit of calculation just to see how we're going to deal with the quality and the quantity issues, and I'm proposing there'd be a pond, infiltration pond somewhere in this area. That's certainly subject to change, because as I'm proceeding with this project with DEP, I might alter that slightly. But I guess right now I'm really just want to make sure the board is okay with the road as laid out for location-wise, so I can proceed with DP's stormwater permits, because we want to go through all that permit process and come back to the board, and the board says, we really didn't want the road location, for whatever reasons. Ben sees the abutting property owner, he's fine with that road being in that location. Of course, Phil was added, that's what he wants to put all from the start. And then the only other thing I just wanna, make the board realize that we are, these two commercial lots, the original road went right up against the, property line, so these lots are actually gonna increase in size and go to the abutting property, because now we're not building this road, you don't have the width of it. And so, we'll have,
Sorry, what-
we'll have frontage here.
Pardon me, Paul.
Yeah,
What road is that road?
this is the one that we had approved. For the.
That's the original approval.
Correct. So,
Okay.
lot one is gonna absorb that area, and lot two is gonna absorb that area, because there's no sense having it just, the limo is open space, not really good for anything. And then when I reconfigure these lots, because of where the cul-de-sac has to get on frontage, this is gonna, I'm taking away some land from here to get an open space, and I'm gonna add a little to this lot so I can make it a viable, buildable lot. So, they are gonna change the lot lines a little bit, I really have no alternative, because obviously, if I brought that cul-de-sac back to that point, it doesn't really make sense to do that for road frontage and for construction wise. So that would be the only thing when I come back to the preliminary, once I submit a DEP and get DEP stormwater approval, you'll see that these lots did slightly change. You know, the original boundary is here, but I changed it, shortened it up here, because I didn't need it. And then I kinda had to increase it a little bit in this area, just to make that a viable lot. And those will be the only really significant changes to the entire plan, and I guess I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I'm sorry, the planner isn't here tonight
Yeah.
because of a health issue,
Yeah,
very significant health issue. Probably recover quickly. So we're, don't have the benefit of his detailed knowledge here.
yeah.
And I don't remember that the board had ever given approval to that pathway for the road.
Mr. Chip,
Yes.
that was before you were on board. Are you talking about the original design?
No.
Or are you talking about this one?
Yes,
Correct.
correct.
I think we talked about it several times, we came back and we wanted to increase the grades, cause you know, Phil thought we'd get a variance for the grade change for the commercial grade. We realized we can't get that, so now we're back to the 5% maximum grade, and we're gonna design that road to meet all the commercial roadway standards. So, I
But
guess,
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
so there is an approved application on that exact road course?
The original.
No, the original.
What was,
no,
yeah, what was sort of grade in through the lots?
Okay, this has
This
never
is
been
not-
approved.
no,
Right, correct.
no, this is,
Before the adjacent property became an option.
this is the one that was approved right here.
That's what I thought.
And this is
Okay.
the one now, obviously, it's a lot, it's more beneficial for Phil, and it's also more beneficial for Ben, and it's also more beneficial for DOT, because now instead of having a road here,
Well, no,
in the future,
I
another
understand
road here.
the two entrances.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a topo map you provided last summer.
Yeah,
I'm having a little bit of a hard time looking at that and getting in sync with the statement that the cuts are about the same on the two potential pathways.
yeah. So, I don't know how to explain that to you. Here's the topo map. That I probably, same exact map I submitted to you, I gotta look at the one you're looking at.
Yeah, I know, the one.
That's the same topo. Yeah. So when you use the topographic survey in front of you and superimpose the road for the grades that are required, those are, that's the green cut.
See, I'm having the same problem, because I remember going off to the left on that road, and it was not any place close to as big a cut going
You know, it
through.
seemed that walking it, but when you actually run the numbers and do a plan and profile and have to be the 5% grades, that's when you have the cuts. When you're walking this now,
Yeah, I didn't-
we're not privy to grades.
Well, yeah, I know,
No, it looks
but
like
I remember walking up a
You know.
fairly steep hill, up and down the other side to get
Yeah.
to get over to the cul-de-sac, and that's what has me
It's
confused.
just, looking at it common sense wise, I agree with you. That's why I did the exercise. Because, you know, I was trying to stop the field, so, you know, the planning board really would like to see this road, in my opinion, I think you'd like to see it the way I had it, if we walked it. And Phil doesn't wanna build it that way, obviously. And so I went through the exercise, and I'm saying it's not any better in this location than in the, right down the line.
Okay. It just
I agree,
seems to, it doesn't make
I
any
agree.
sense, but you did the measurements, you should know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm running the exact total for both for the project, both roads, and I was surprised also.
Now, question I have for you, if I may. When I see the entrance, okay, now, is this on Phil's side, or basically where we have driven in along the property line and parked for the entrance, for the,
When we parked, we were on Ben's property. The
yes,
road is going.
yes. Now, that's what, that's what I'm saying
We
is.
were parked in this area.
Correct. So, originally when we were talking about it, because at that entrance right there, was a lot of big dead pine tree or something other, right at that corner, okay? Yeah, which that would be gone, but then we were also talking at the same time of almost running parallel where we were parking as that, without turning around, getting another DOT entrance permit. Because you have one where we were parking, you already had gotten approval for a DOT entrance permit, and eliminating the other one on the old original idea. So this way, it looks like it's swinging more over towards, I'm gonna call it where the cemetery is.
Yes.
Okay? Is that for more easier access to the cemetery?
Well,
I mean, I'm thinking out loud of that way.
No,
That's-
there's a couple of reasons why it brings the road in more 9 degrees to the Alfred Road. And the next thing, at that location, it's better sight distance than down further down.
Okay, for sight distance, that's,
So that's the
that's
primary
the-
reason.
that was, yeah, I mean, that's the reason,
It's a better location than.
for sight distance,
lower.
that's, makes more reason, that's why I was just inquiring.
Yeah, exactly right.
So let me ask a question, on the cross sections, the slope all seems to be almost identical, so that 5%
Yeah,
over the same
yeah,
run.
exactly the same.
Because if I,
Along your slope line,
Yeah, the slope,
on your slope lines,
Yeah.
weren't you,
I think.
originally, we were thinking it was at 10 or something, it was a greater,
We were trying
and then
to
we were
aim
talking
same.
about,
I think we had, I thought we had settled on 6.
okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah. I thought at
Okay,
the end of the day, we had
that's
settled
why,
on
I mean,
6%.
making it work.
But that was on the original road.
If I may,
Yes,
at the end of the day, we talked about, the board talked about entertaining 6 or 6.5, but it was not agreed on, and I
okay.
said, my theory was 1% isn't gonna make that much difference, so we'll just go with the 5, which the ordinance requires.
Okay.
And I think we didn't want to get in a position where someday we want to turn this over to the town. That could be a 1% difference in grades, you know, it doesn't meet our specifications, and so we, you know, for the 1%, like Phil said, it probably didn't make a whole lot of difference.
Looks like you made it work.
I mean, it works,
Yeah.
just more,
Yeah.
Did you do this drawing for last summer's version of the road?
yes, that's steeper grade there, is that what that is?
It was at.
No, this is
10%.
what we got for tonight's meeting.
Oh, okay, yeah, let me see that.
What are you referring to?
That's when you get.
What Chip's looking for, because if you had ever done a road profile off of that older proposed road.
No,
You did,
no, never got that far,
yep.
nope.
We did one that was at, 10% or 8.5, whatever.
That was still on this path.
Yeah,
That's correct.
so this is a huge improvement.
This is a whole new,
Well, I wanted to try to justify in my mind, and to justify to Phil, and justify to Ben, I thought it would be better to go that way, to tell you the truth. I mean, it just looked in my mind,
Well,
and I wanted to show Ben that I kinda was hoping when I did this, there would be no cuts here, you know, it would be nice and level, it wouldn't look too bad, and it would be a better view for his property.
yeah,
It's really not that significantly different between two locations. And again, it saves him an acre of land.
so going straight makes sense in every way.
It does make, well, yes, because Phil wants to go straight.
Yeah, and you
It's
can
less, a
then
little bit
keep
less
more of his
road,
land.
it takes less of his property.
What about, we have an ongoing, I hate to use the general word issue, but the fact of the matter is, this road is being built to serve two separate parcels. And so, we always end up asking questions about your property.
So right now, I'm taking the backseat. I had a client that was really pushing me to get a building built,
Right.
and that client had to go elsewhere.
He had to get it done, I
Yeah,
understand that.
which is fine. So right now, I'm sitting back and just waiting for the road, and then I'm
Okay,
gonna come up with a plan.
two completely separate questions. One is, with this route for the road right along the property line, are there any problems with access to your future lots that you wouldn't have if the road swung out more to the east?
It gives,
Yeah.
it just comes into the road to my property further, and then also, especially my land where it's basically at a nice level, right where that road is, in between that and another large rock pile, so if the road was up along the property line a little better, it would give me a greater area of already decent land to start building on, a little closer. We'd have to cut the curb to get into that road, but, it still would be minor, it would just make my property look a lot fuller and better.
Okay, and then the other thing in Mr. Gadboy's letter of December 28th to the town planner, there is reference to an agreement with the abutting landowner, BDF Holdings LLC. Is that agreement something that could be made public to the?
Oh, you have a copy, you can get copies.
I have a copy in my, I
Oh,
have
you
my
get,
own
well,
copy.
it's just Ben's just allowing Phil to do what he wants on his property, but, so, you can have that one, I only have one copy. I thought Ben was gonna have ours this evening, but certainly,
All right, yeah.
certainly we need to have, that agreement prior to going to DEP.
So this road is, this is gonna be built to town standards all the way back to the cul-de-sac?
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
because, you know, obviously Ben's property is all commercial.
Yep, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And Paul, to sort of to
Literally,
that-
this is the extent of, this is the agreement? that's-
Yeah,
Okay.
I chatted with my lawyer real quick, and he said that should suffice to just do something very simple for now.
Paul, did you say that the cul-de-sac is being built to commercial standards?
Yes.
The whole way around?
Oh, wait, yeah,
Right.
the radius is obviously larger, the larger cul-de-sac, for turning radiuses, so it's, at least to commercial standards. Whereas in the old way, obviously you did commercial standards and you did fly.
I mean, Tad, Chip, one thing that, you know, it looks like Ben's land comes up a little bit, is that correct? Your land, Ben, is a little higher, right in that real steep part of the road cut?
Say that again.
So right in that area, right where Paul's looking,
That's right.
on Ben's side of the land, that's steeper over there. I mean, that's higher,
It is higher.
right.
That's
So, but, in my opinion, by pulling the road closer to the property line, that gives you more room
More
for
room.
Ben to
Yeah.
transition into his lots that are up higher. You know, now, you know, instead of being up 10 feet higher than the road, maybe they're gonna now be up 20 or more.
Maybe
but-
there was students or grades coming into buildings after that, maybe more room for this grade.
And, you know, conversely, if Phil's side is a little lower, you know, being down lower, he's got an easier access into it.
Now, do you also too have of course, all utilities will be underground?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
And also too, at the same time, your underground utilities will be able to branch over onto Ben's side here, I mean, so
We
it's,
discussed that too, because I wanna have, enough tubing to
Yeah.
get three-phase up there one day,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, so, I
that was
mean,
a
it's,
discussion.
and then also too, you have, planned a road maintenance agreement between the two of you already?
there will be.
Well,
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking of questions for final approval or anything else along the way. That's where I, you know,
And Phil, the one question I have, and it really, it sort of loosely pertains, I think it loosely pertains to us with regard to stormwater management. But have you had any conversations with the DEP on, you know, their sort of common scheme of development criteria and rolling, you know, what Ben is proposing to do into Phil's approval?
I have not, so we haven't submitted DEP yet.
Yep.
So certainly when I do submit DEP, I'll let them know, you know, just what we're planning on, what's going on here, and it'll be for, obviously for future development.
I mean, from my
We're gonna try
standpoint,
to-
as a road and as a subdivision, you know, the road is what it is, the lots are what they are. I mean, and if Ben has sufficient land available to do whatever needs to be done,
Right.
that's, you know, what
Well,
would be
that's-
done is sort of my concern of what's gonna be the final approval, and, you know, then don't want you guys to be having to come back because the DEP said, yeah, well, our filter bed here has become a wet pond.
Yeah, I mean, that filter bed, like I told Phil and Ben, is just for the road.
Yep.
Right now.
Right.
So, you know, obviously, you can't put anything else into it. It's just gonna handle the DEP requirements to run off for the road pavement. So, if Ben goes for a project in the future, he'll have to come up with his own ponds,
Yep.
his own location, to handle any impervious areas for his site. I mean, you know, you can try to move this down, have one big pond and say, that's great, you know, but we don't really know what the build-out's gonna be, and, so, you know.
So the way you're proposing this, it's gonna be completely, on Labby property, with permission to build on your property. So we're keeping them separate that way. And you might be coming in at some point with your own, once the road's in, then you can,
Yeah,
Your
then
own
we can
plan.
start making.
I'm sorry.
then you can go back to your drawings.
Right, and it'd be a lot easier to design something once the road is
Yeah.
definitely going
make it
in,
much
right
simpler.
now.
Right now, you're guessing what would have been done.
Exactly.
But you were actually going to deed the land onto the road over to Mr. Labby?
When it comes time, absolutely, yeah, we're gonna have that whole agreement drawn up.
Would be
Okay.
deeded
and
over or
is
just
Is the
right
intention,
of way.
right away, okay, yeah.
well, there is a difference.
No, but until the town accepts it, I mean, it's gotta be owned by somebody.
Well, I understand that.
Or
And-
conjunction.
and which
Yeah.
brings me to the next thing, which is the intent is for the town, you want the town to adopt this as a town road.
At some
Eventually.
point, so, if I may, in the meantime, before we draw up a maintenance agreement and an agreement for use and build, we will make sure that whatever we come to an agreement on meets the town specifications for maybe future acceptance at a later date. So we're gonna wanna make sure that the deed or the easement, whatever is required, meets what the town would require if and when we ask to have it accepted. But for now, it'll be a private road.
Now, let me just ask Mr. Bill a question here. The idea of the three-phase, okay, which is now along 111.
Right.
Okay, is the three-phase, are you drawing it in such a way that it can be adjoined to your two commercials if needed? On your two, and not necessary for the residential and back, the two lots up front? I mean, are you working with the idea of
That remained to be determined.
Okay,
I'm not sure if my two commercial lots
we'll need it,
are big enough to require three-phase.
okay.
But if we think that it's required, it could be utilized, then yeah, it will be ducked in. Absolutely.
Okay, so-
In your crystal ball, in my crystal ball, if anything else, is there ever of the thought, if it ever comes up that way, water? I'm just thinking, no,
Water won't be up that way in my lifetime.
well, I didn't think we were gonna have water pressure on Route 1 in my lifetime, and I got it now.
Yeah, well, regardless, there is no provisions for public water
Okay.
at this point.
I'm just throwing out as a babble thought.
I have a question about the retention pond that Phil put a,
This one?
yeah, that looks like it's on lot number 4.
No, that's
No.
on Ben's land.
It's, okay, cause I'm looking at that and I'm
Yeah,
looking over here going,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's,
okay. As long as,
It's on Ben's land right now.
cause I'm going, that's not good for
So
Phil.
that's the property line, that's Phil's land, that's the property line, that's Ben's land.
Okay,
The cul-de-sac goes on to Phil's property slightly, and then the filter pond's on Ben's land right now.
okay.
Is that for trout or bass?
I'm not a fisherman, I'm not a fisherman, so.
I don't know, I mean, we know you, with your cigars, you know,
Yeah,
you can stuff them out there, I mean,
Right.
Bring the bait, we'll put in fish.
How big a deal is that?
so,
How about if I just bring some fish and throw them in there? Yeah, the ones I catch and release.
That would work.
now you're releasing them to a new location.
I have a question on one of the lots 5. So I think the road is great, I don't know about the rest of the board, but on lot 5, it shows some wetlands crossing.
Yes.
Is there still reasonable access to the buildable part of the lot?
Yeah, this is the buildable area. I think during the first phase, first party, we had a wetland build. Didn't need a permit because we're under the 4,200 square feet. That's still gonna be in this future phase because the cul-de-sac, I guess I have this one. The cul-de-sac was right here, and we still need to kind of cross this wetland to get to the buildable area. So it's still gonna have to do
cross
that.
Okay, that'd be part of your.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
DEP.
Well, you have to be part of the application, so how much wetland might fill in.
Yeah,
If it's over 4,200 square feet, then obviously I'll get a permit from DEP. Yes.
we'll find out.
Yeah.
Okay. I think this looks great. It really, I think it solves a lot of issues both in dealing with.
At least you don't have to go down over that big road in the back.
Yes.
Please. You've referred to the intention to have some sort of use agreement together. I assume that would be, if there hasn't been a transfer of that part of Ben's property to Phil, or their respective entities, before Phil is ready to start conveying out lots, is the intention to actually formalize things with easements for the protection of
Yes.
the lot owners, right?
Yeah, there'll be they'll have Ben will have an access easement over Phil's land, Phil will have an access easement over Ben's land, until such time as a road is built and ready for acceptance. At that point, both of them will have to convey it to the town. So we'll have to convey those access easements in fee to the town at that point.
Okay, so
Is
so
the
there is-
intention that happens before there's any transfer to a private lot
We're
owner?
waiting for the road to be completely decided upon, I think we
Yeah.
had the boundaries.
I don't think the town allows us to develop any lots until the road is 100% complete.
But
You're right,
accept-
whether it's-
acceptance of the road by the town is not guaranteed.
No.
No,
And
Absolutely
that
not.
will not that probably will not happen prior to the first one or two lots and on one or both
Yeah.
pieces of property, correct?
that's understood and expected.
Well, okay, so, but Bill, you just said something different, which, it's not a problem, I just wanna be clear here. your intention is an exchange of easements, access easements, and not an exchange of property, is that correct?
It'll actually be a deed form, it'll be a deed form, we'll have to write a deed where.
I understand, but what you're talking about though is.
No, like conveying, I wasn't proposing conveying in feet at this time, but it doesn't really matter to me. If you have access
I
to a
don't,
piece of
unless
property, you
Jens
own it
tells,
in feet, it doesn't matter.
unless Jens tells me that it matters, or somebody tells me it matters, I don't really care, I just, I'm.
Yeah. I don't care how they do, they may change their mind.
I like to hear the same thing repeatedly, rather than, it's been confusing.
We're gonna work out those issues when we come back in front of the planning board. It's either gonna have easements to go over each other's lands, and to do it, and the lawyer's gonna write up the descriptions and easements to satisfy our requirements.
You'll have to do that before the final plan anyway.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. So they can figure out whether they wanna do in feet, or they wanna handle it by easement, but certainly we'll have the legal documentation prior to even coming back in front of the planning board.
In terms of Phil's residential, every time I've ever seen anything thus far, from a town acceptance point of view, it's all done after everything, after all the residential property has been built and sold. Because those are the people who are coming looking for it.
Well, and that's where before it gets to that point, the road use agreement is important to
That's
have in
correct.
place.
Yeah.
And essentially to protect those buyers.
But I commend Phil for saying, I'm gonna build this to the town specs for the commercial road, which will make it much easier from an acceptance point of view, because anytime we accept roads, they're supposed to be to town standard. Notice I said supposed to be.
I don't think anyone has built a commercial standard road in Arundel.
Not in a long time.
This
5 inches of
may be
pavement.
first.
Huh? When you built my road, it was all to standards, I know that was a private way. But turn, you went and be way above and beyond that to make sure it was done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
We don't have an actual drainage plan here,
No.
how long do you think before you're gonna get any answers back from DEP?
60 days?
Conceptually.
Well, why I'm asking that idea is so that we could try to get ready for public hearings or whatever else that is needed. That's why I'm asking that, so that Phil can start playing along the way.
Okay, one thing, since the planner isn't here, well, a couple things since the planner isn't here. There's a staff request for peer review of the road engineering, especially stormwater management plan and utilities. And that would be at the expense of the applicant. The peer review, at least that's my understanding. And it's also mentioned that a fire pond is not proposed, instead sprinklers on residences, is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. And the road will, you already said it will violate DEP stormwater permit. Are we looking for, well, actually, let me ask the board this, before we take any action, obviously, we're not approving final plans. Does it make sense to have a site walk with this road layout staked out?
No. At this time of year, no. Okay, and secondly,
Bear with me, Mr. Riley. Anybody else have any strong opinions on the subject?
Well, I would agree with Marty. I don't think I wanna go walking through 3 feet of snow.
but the other factor is, we have been there
We
on
haven't,
the, on
and
the
we
hike,
walked
on the
both
hike
sides.
several times, okay?
It
And
hasn't changed.
the land hasn't changed, the only trouble is, we have a lot more white rain on it. And then, the squish squash of puddles. And whether we've seen where the property line is.
That's why, you got holes in your boots?
Yes. My snowshoes don't work well, okay? I would say, no, I don't need a sidewalk.
Jens, are you okay with that? Of course, you haven't been to the
I
site.
have not, I think I'm the only one that hasn't been.
I have only been there once, in contrast to the others.
Yeah, I've been out twice.
3 times.
I'm comfortable not having a sidewalk in order to give
Okay,
them some
I
direction.
just wanted to raise the question.
So I think the question before us tonight is whether or not we're comfortable with that road.
Or are we giving concept, I guess what we're giving is approval of the
Concept.
But, I mean, is that, I'm not even sure that's something that we vote on, is it?
No. I mean, but the fact is, along that lines, in the past, it was a discussion about grade and not grade. It is now to grade and then some, so that they proceeded forward to give us their development of the road and the location. And if that's the answers that have been questioned and determined, and so they can proceed along the way to get the DEP process going also.
I for one, and I'm not speaking for the whole board here, would suggest that something with more detail than this be, that,
No, absolutely.
more detail would be better, I think, and this is, I'm just, you know.
Everyone just
You-
told me to
you-
give
You
you,
guys are obviously getting along fine and everything else, I just think you would be smart
we're going to, yeah.
to
At
sit
this
down with the
stage.
lawyers. Now that you've figured out where it's gonna be,
Before either, excuse me, if I may,
yeah,
before either one of us dump a lot of money into this, it will be worded and approved by attorneys, and it will be recorded, and everything will be deeded
but,
properly.
okay, that's fine, I'm sorry. That's why.
Okay.
No, it's a good.
All right,
Those are my words, and they're just basic, I know, I just was told to bring something in paper.
No,
That's good.
it is a start, and that's, you know, that's great.
So we don't need
It
a
seems
motion.
it seems to be the consensus of the board that you're meeting the 5% grade, you're gonna get the DEP permit, you're gonna make sure the stormwater drainage is okay, you recognize that there'll be peer review by an engineer, town engineer hired by the town. Anyone else have any other comments, conditions at this point?
You know, I look at it and go, I'm sorry, I don't understand how that's gonna be the same height, but I take your word for it, it is. And
That's why I did it the other way.
If
I don't
the applicant
understand
wants
either.
to burrow through 10 feet of granite and whatever other stuff is out there and have the sidewalls going up,
Yeah, we talked about that, we had a meeting last night, I showed them, you know, what was going on, they're well aware.
yeah, I find it incredible that that it's gonna be the same slope, and that it's not cheaper to buy out the land to go out and around, but you guys know what you're doing, and,
Yeah, I was,
okay. Phil, you're gonna be,
you know,
is the cul-de-sac itself is gonna be built at commercial grade as well?
Yes.
So you're not planning on putting commercial property out there, are you?
I am not.
Okay.
Yeah, but you see,
Ben,
but he-
Ben will need to use that cul-de-sac for his project.
you got
Okay.
a truck coming down, turning around,
Yeah.
coming back.
Okay.
You're not gonna try to do another.
Okay,
No, no,
I'm sorry, time.
that answers the question.
Well,
I don't know,
that actually opens the question, which I was on,
Sorry, I think I opened the can of worms.
no, I'm glad you did.
And we're gonna be glad you did.
The intent is that the the full length of what's shown there would be available to Ben for developing even this, I guess, the southerly part
Absolutely.
out here.
Yep.
So you would be having residences in a cluster where the open space is out to the southwest, and there could be, in theory, commercial property right next to them.
Yeah.
How far
And-
does
and-
that commercial zone go back?
Too
It goes,
far.
it goes back a
Too
distance.
far.
But I'm sorry, I look at that and go, you know, that's a commercial zone. If you wanna buy a residential house and look at a commercial zone, that's on you. Go ahead and buy it.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna.
Well, this is one of those situations where somebody could buy a house and live in it for 10 years and think the woods next to them are gonna stay that way forever, and then one day.
As long as they know that it's a commercial zone, it's on them.
Yeah, if I may.
Yes, sir.
If I built my little subdivision on the original road, them houses would all be there.
Same place.
Regardless where the road is, them lots are there, and the commercial is gonna be across the road, there's nothing we can do about it.
Okay.
So the buyers ought to just realize that, but the one thing they may not realize, and I think it's based on a comment that somebody made here, is that, commercial trucks could be coming up and using that cul-de-sac in the proximity of those
On a regular
houses.
basis.
It would be an accident, though, if they had to use that, they could, but every envisionment I've seen is trucks in, I mean, there'd be no reason for a truck to go down there,
Unless they didn't know what they were doing.
unless they
Okay, so that's not
accidentally-
gonna be an intention
No.
to route them that way or whatever.
Right, if they would miss the entrance onto Ben's property, then they would wanna go down there and,
And
Make a loop.
you're probably gonna
We
have.
want
Right,
them,
I assume it's
we
gonna
don't want
be
them to
multiple.
back out and get in trouble in the cul-de-sac areas. The only reason.
Right.
Because quite frankly, the truck will come in here and do his thing and leave.
Also at the same time, when Phil started in the first proposal of this, of his 4-unit, residential, this existing property next door was not available at the time. And we had discussed to Phil, for some of the board members, that wouldn't it have been easier to come in something along the way it is being proposed now
Yeah.
than trying to run the driveway up and over and through the cliffs and with the deep slopes. And at that time about having lot cleared or anything else, this lot, which is Ben's next door, has already been pretty much cleared, so the trees that the abutter would be in the residential would already see that they're not there, instead of having them come in and blindsided. Correct me if I'm wrong.
In the end, we're looking at an application on one property. I really don't care what potential plans might
Be for
happen
the
on
next
the
one.
other. Really, it has.
We don't
no-
have it on our
Really.
agenda.
Even though that it works out, but that's up to you guys. We're just looking at one property. What might happen on the other side, you can put an 80-foot wide pavement, I don't think it's a limit how well you build the road, so.
Yes, it does, by town standards.
You have to have a minimum, but he's going way
Turnpike's
beyond.
looking for-
Oh, yeah, but when he cuts through the ledge there and the walls,
Yeah,
you
he wants-
see, no, you
The
see,
class more,
that gives him more material if he needs to build up the cul-de-sac. I mean, you get the material to
Well,
need it. Anyway, that's engineering.
don't
I don't
have-
have any real issues.
I don't have any issues at all.
No, I have no.
Jens, have you,
No,
any questions or?
no, no.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Labby and Mr. Gadboy and Ben, do you
And
feel
Ben.
like, I'm sorry, I don't remember your last name.
Fitzpatrick.
Fitzpatrick, that's right, Ben. Do you have what you need?
Yes, so I just didn't wanna go ahead and come back and say, here's all that permitting, you know, You know, we said, well, you guys really didn't run that by us, and we didn't really like it, and
You actually addressed all the concerns that we had last time.
kind of like, you know. a little
And
nervous
then
about
some.
that.
Yeah, and then some, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to new applications. First one is Motorland. I understand this is a pre-application discussion. Conditional use permit, to convert the 9,900 square foot automobile storage facility into a public showroom. Doing some other things. So, Mr. Gadboy,
Again,
I'm guessing that you had a very brief respite, and you are now going to explain this one to us.
Well, I'm gonna have Ralph Austin, he's gonna kind of start the presentation for the clients, and so I'll introduce Ralph.
Thank you. As Paul said, my name's Ralph Austin. I'm an attorney with offices in Biddeford. I represent Motorland. Paul Gadbois is also here tonight, and he'll go through the plan details with you. We also have Tim Stiniford, who is a partner in Motorland, and next to Tim is Richard Prentice, who represents his brother Miles Prentice, who's another partner in Motorland. As the agenda mentioned, and as the chair mentioned, the proposal tonight is primarily to convert the use of the larger building that this board approved in 2016 into 9,900 square foot building, plus or minus, to convert the use of that from solely automobile storage to automobile showroom display area during part of the year. As those who were on the board back in July of 2016, remember, the board approved the construction of this new building, and it was for storage of automobiles, plus in the front, service facility, 2 bays, and a parts and office area. The current showroom that Motorland has for display of its vehicles is in the smaller building that fronts on Route 1. And with the growth that Motorland has had in its business over the past couple of years, that showroom is just too small. It doesn't adequately meet the needs of the business. They need a much larger showroom, and that's why they want to change the use, again, for part of the year in the large building to a showroom. The current operational proposal would be that they would use that building for an automobile showroom during what they call the high selling season, roughly from April to November, and then in the winter from November probably through April, revert it back to automobile storage. As I said, Paul can run through the plan details with you in a minute, but before I turn it over to Paul, and one more comment I'd just like to make, and Paul brought it up in his letter. From that letter, it appears that there might be some concern that Motorland intends to operate a museum in this building, and that's not what they're proposing. I know that Tim had an idea at one point that it might be a nice idea to have a museum there to give something back to the community, but once he found out that museums aren't allowed in the business industrial zone, he abandoned that idea. So just for the record, I'm going to state on behalf of Motorland very clearly and unequivocally, it's not a museum. This is for automobile showroom display, like most automobile dealerships have. And every car that will be in the showroom will be for sale. It's a automobile showroom. With that, I would like to turn it over to Paul to run through the details of the plan.
So obviously, we started about a year ago when we had some complications. This is the exact same plan, this is the plan that was submitted a year ago showing changes in the transformer pad and the gas tanks. And now the increased pavement has been shown as one color because that was, showed its different color back in them days because it was new. So this is basically the plan that was approved. And like Ralph said, the applicant's wishing to do is now change this building that was permitted for storage, change that to be for auto sales and display.
I'm sorry, which building?
This one.
The new one.
The new one.
The new one, which we were told when it was built was going to be for private automobile parking.
Store, yes, store. Yeah, no, price,
One of their clients was gonna park all of his cars in that building. That's what we were told originally.
Okay.
So, I mean, regardless, they're looking to, the
So,
proposal is to
and
change
so
that.
this building did evolve, it was to be store vehicles, however, they evolved it to have lighting, air conditioning, heating, still only approved for storage of vehicles. So at this point, they wanna change that use to, automobile display.
Where it says existing concrete pad, are there already heating and cooling?
I believe they're all
equipment
installed now,
units
I'm
already
sure.
installed there?
Yes. So I think the building's completely functional, the code enforcement officer from Randstein has approved it as far as being able to have, occupancies, fire codes and all that have been met, so, that's been taken care of in the building inspector's end of it, so.
How does this drawing compare to what the board approved the last time and to what is actually on the ground today?
It's exactly the same as what the board approved last time.
Other than parking.
Oh, no, I mean, no, what's there today is exactly what was approved last time, they haven't made any changes yet. Now, this plan's showing changes to the previous approved plan. So what we'd like to accomplish with this
Can you
plan,
walk us through what the changes
Yeah.
are, please?
what we'd like to do is, like to change the parking configuration. We need, because we can display 60 vehicles in this building, we need 2 additional parking spaces beyond what was originally approved. What was originally approved was 23 parking spaces that we needed. Now we need 25. So, it says right here, we need 25 required. We are providing 28 spaces right now. We have taken, Tad, we met with Tad, we tried to divvy with Tad, me and Dave Graham, to talk about the parking in front of this building. Remember there was a discussion where we think we missed it by 1 foot as far as the dimensional requirements. You usually have 25 and 18. You like to have 43 feet of pavement area to technically be a parking area. Tad didn't have too much concern as far as we're a foot shy here. We're actually 25 and 17. But we're not parking up against a building. We're not parking up against another vehicle. So, and these are just gonna be parking for the employees in and out and doing the vehicle repair area. So it does work. If the cars are parked here, obviously they can overhang a little bit over the green strip. It's not like you have a sidewalk right there where you want the full 18 feet.
Aren't there bay doors there?
There are some bay doors right here, that's correct. So they'll have 25 feet in order to get out in and out of the bay doors. But they have control of those cars. If for some reason there's a larger vehicle, they have to get into the bay, they can certainly delegate which cars can be moved in order to accomplish that. So we think that is a real good location for parking. It's just for the vehicle area, the cars will be immediately in queue for repair. And we're missing it by a foot. The second thing is the same scenario right here. We're missing that by 2 feet. Again, that's just for employee parking. They're gonna come in, they can park, their tire, their front bumper can overhang on the green space area. It works. And that's where it really should be. The employee parking should be out to the rear of the property. And we think that's gonna be a lot better as far as traffic control for the entire site. They have installed a sign here that says, I think, no, what was the sign? What did the sign say? The sign you installed.
Oh, employee only.
Yeah, okay. So that will be shown on the plans, because that was something the planning board talked about the last meeting. So Tim has put out signage to help direct traffic. I think we put some no parking signs along Route 1. So we'll show those signs exactly where they are for the future submission. But I think Tad's concern was, we should bring it in front of the board in order to talk about the parking.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
That area right out in front is, right there, yep, is not dedicated for parking right now. Is that correct?
Past plans, no, it was
Okay.
not dedicated.
I just wanted to make
And the reason why.
sure I was remembering right.
Yep.
Well, it was originally rented. propane tank is supposed to be partly.
Okay.
And so, and
Sorry
that
to
just,
interrupt.
that just leaves up, you know, putting the customer parking right along this area. We think it's a lot cleaner. We do wanna remove some pavement, add some landscaping so that we can buffer the parking and display vehicles, so people coming in, they'll know exactly where to turn and park. So we are gonna landscape that area. We'll have a landscape architect tell us, you know, what type of shrub should be there, what type of tree should be there, and of course Tad, to look at that, obviously, because he's into landscaping. And so then we wanna come back and show what we're trying to do in this new courtyard display area, or whatever you technically call it. In the bushy landscaping, kinda did a rendering, I'm sorry, my plotter didn't get the colors as bright as they should be, but for some reason we're not on the same page as far as that's concerned, but, you know, this is, the area that we're gonna try to landscape. My plan does show, you know, that we're gonna do, some sort of, concrete pavers in that area. It's not gonna be concrete, it'll be like a concrete paver. Landscaping, again, I showed the landscaping they're proposing, they're proposing some shrubs or trees, but we'll come up with the exact details of what type of shrubs and what type of trees in the next phase. I think I gave you 3 versions of those renderings from bushy landscaping. I just picked one here.
It's Boucher now, Paul.
Boucher, it's not Boucher?
No, you might call
Right,
it
Boucher?
No, not anymore.
No?
No.
Alright, I'll get that straight.
I was
I probably
corrected
won't
some
get it
time
straight.
ago.
Depends on who you ask.
If you
So-
ask Mike, it's Boucher.
So I guess tonight, the thing is, you know, is the parking. Obviously, you know, we wanna come forward with a landscape plan, new grading plan, what has to be done, they wanna do some raised steps, cause there's a septic system there, so we wanna kind of work around the septic, and the landscape architect have all the grades and all the details that need to work on that. We're not going in that direction until we obviously get to the board. We are gonna be removing this portion of the building, which is, you remember, is the shed portion of the back of the garage, so we'll be removing that. And otherwise, it's not really, not gonna need any DEP permits. We've already got a permit by rule for the project that was required at the last meeting. And the biggest concern now is we're still under the payment threshold. It's just an area disturbed threshold. We're not disturbing any more of the original area, so we're not gonna need to worry about any additional DEP permits for the project. I guess I would be glad to answer any questions, unless I forgot something, Tim wants to speak up.
I have a question. Where's the cafe gonna be? Because you're talking about having cafe-style seating.
I said that?
It says, that's what it says here.
Oh,
Yeah.
And where's the cafe?
is that another use? Should use that word, because that's not allowed use.
Well, no, not so much that it's not an allowed use. If it's cafe seating, that implies that there's food someplace, food or beverages that people are gonna be able to get.
I'm not sure that came, from the applicant, or is that something that Tad put in?
Right.
Because
That is something that, yeah, this is
I don't-
this is from Tad, but I'm
I don't
assuming
see it from Paul.
I
that,
don't recall that we referred to it as cafes.
Neither
Okay.
did I.
well, the planner did.
Okay, here's the question, does the applicant intend to offer food concessions in the plaza to the public?
Absolutely
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't think you'd want
Not
to do
even
that.
free
with
coffee for customers?
Pardon?
Not even free coffee for customers?
They're gonna spill it on the
For planning
upholstery.
board chairman, welcome.
I'm kidding.
Okay, another question is, with the raised dais, is located immediately over the septic tank, if I'm not mistaken, am I wrong?
That's what their position is, raised island, because I actually located exact bed area, and located the tanks and the pump systems and the septic tanks and all that, and gave that to the architect, so they know what they have to work with. So yes, that's their goal right now.
Their goal is what?
To
Put it
actually
smack on
make
top of the septic
this,
tank?
make this raised bed on top of the septic system. Raised
Okay, is the
seating
septic
area,
system gonna need to
seating
be,
area slash,
is the septic system gonna need to be converted from plastic to concrete or anything like that?
that's something we'll have to determine. That's a good question, but we'll have to determine that.
And Mr. Ross, your statement that this is not a museum
Mhm.
hinges on all the cars being for sale and no revenue being generated for the privilege of looking at the cars, is that correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
Mr. Chair, can I ask you?
Yeah,
of course. First of all, I forget why we ever didn't allow museums in this zone. This could be a good use for the museum here. And so I say that first.
Tom.
Huh?
Yeah, I thought that too.
Yeah, so.
I don't disagree with that, but the fact is, the ordinance says what the ordinance says.
So.
But our confusion was, just to, if I may comment, not to interrupt,
Yeah.
we've seen other museums operating, you know, Bentley's Auto Museum.
But Bentley's
That's
is
not- that's
on
not-
private property and is a private
not-
museum, it's not open to the public to go look at.
It's not
And
really.
he also
museum.
isn't charging any money for people to go there.
And it's
Right.
it's a different zone.
It's a
Is-
private,
is
it's a
my
private
understanding was
collection.
was the gateway zone is the only zone that allows a museum.
It's a private collection of private property that generates no revenue.
So,
It's not a museum.
well, the reason why I said, I have no problem with museums that zone, but we'd have to work on that.
Well,
Having said that, let me finish, having said that, all these plans sure look like there's all people that just are either going into or came out of a museum. It seems like, I don't know why all these people are lounging about, if there isn't food available or a museum display, they just came out of, it seems like the whole
I
thing.
would say that's probably, I mean, a pretty,
Well, I-
pretty standard, person depiction that
I'm
landscape
kinda,
architects or an
I'm kinda
architect would
stretching
use.
the impression a little bit, but it seems like the intention is to kinda have as close to a museum as we can get away with without being one. And again, I have no problem with museum. It also with that area, it looks like a meeting place. So I saw something about having some gatherings, like a soiree, type of thing, which would, good place for it. But, I'm wondering if you really wanna have a museum, why not push for that instead? It may not take all that much work, things do get changed.
Right now, we don't want a museum, and if I can address, I mean, that central courtyard area, Tim and his partners have a unique business here, the sale of these classic automobiles, and it brings in a certain caliber of customer who wants to buy some of these vehicles. And so they need to have a nice looking area. That's what he's attempting to achieve. That's it.
I guess, one of the reasons why I just throw it right up there, I don't know what your intentions are, maybe it doesn't matter, it should take it on face value, except in the past, some of the design proposals that had been approved kind of morphed into something else, that some of the approved changes weren't done except for being forced to be done. So I'm taking this with a grain of salt, that I'm wondering, like, where's it gonna end up? This is another round of changes, which is fine, but I don't know what the direction is. Again, I think it looks like you wanna have the public come in and look at it. I don't, whether it's charging a fee for the museum or not, I don't.
What it looks like is they've already built the building for the purpose that they're now asking.
Well,
But we're not
I
using
tend to
it.
agree-
We're
I
not
tend to
using
agree
it
with
that way.
Tom on this. I don't know of a single automobile dealer that has a patio where people can go out and sit. Every automobile dealer that I can think of, from here to New York City and back, would have cars in there. They wouldn't have a place for people to go sit. They would have nothing but a bunch of cars. They'd all look like a Rundle Ford and a Weir's Motors. And if you wanted to sit someplace, you'd be inside the building.
But not to,
What's our
I'm gonna
concern?
let them defend their own business model, but what's to say they don't have a different, like I
Yeah.
said, different clientele, different scope that they're trying to appeal to a little differently than Weir's or Arundel Ford.
exactly.
What's our concern about that?
And there's nothing in the ordinance that prohibits having that.
They're in a different era.
Our concern is mission creep.
Their,
Constant.
their cars or their vehicles in a, is a different era, okay? And what that is a, wish we had what we did when we were kids or whatever else stuff. Okay?
It just, say the last thing on this, whatever your intentions are, that's fine, we can work with it. But if you ever had the notion or just the desire to have a museum, that could be a possibility. So whether, we call it a museum or not, so don't take that off the table. So
Well,
it could be something you could
To be
have.
honest, as we shared in the letter, that was our original vision. And you're the first person who's ever had an encouraging word to us about that, if I may. So we took, museums don't make any money. Our original vision was that Motorland would do that to build our brand. 20% of our revenue comes from outside of the United States. We have visitors from all 50 states, from 40 countries in the world. Weir's Motors does not have that. It's a different kind of business. That was our goal. And and giving something back to the community. And in fact, Motorland is quite proud in our 7 years that we were Business of the Year for the Kennebunkport Local Chamber of Commerce out of 500 businesses in 2016. York County Community College recognized us as Rookie of the Year for their Center for Entrepreneurship out of 450 small businesses in the country. Talk to RSU 21, we have an award-winning student internship program that we get Arundel and RSU 21 students actively involved in. And part of it is because our business is different. But to be honest, when we first had the concept of museum, and there was some confusion because I hear, and what I think Bentley's is doing is great, and I understand it is a private museum, but it certainly looks like it's a public museum.
So Tim, just let me stop you there. I looked, they're down into where the DV2 is, and museums are allowed in that zone.
Okay, I thought only museums
Not that
were
really
in the
that's not, of any bearing, but, go ahead.
So we just said, what was originally going to be a community benefit and something like that, a place where we could have workshops. We partnered with the Allsett Transportation Museum in their educational programs. We have RSU 21. Students come in for internships, for workshops, where that space. We need to do something with that space between the buildings. And we do have the problem where there's a leach field that's raised above. So we don't want people coming and, packing a picnic lunch and hanging out all day. That doesn't do anything for our business. We don't want to.
You wouldn't even have that be a non-smoking zone.
Our whole property is no smoking?
I'm sorry, I was making a joke about the leach field, I apologize.
But what we were told is, museums are, what we were told, and I guess I was misinformed, museums are only in the Gateway District, so they're not allowed. And then Arundel only allows nonprofit museums to operate, even though there are plenty of private museums. So we just said, a long time ago, okay, we're not gonna do that. And it just seemed like it was, so we're,
Well, let me, I'm going to, I haven't been on the board for the entire Motorland experience, but actually that's not true, I have been. It's a significant and legitimate concern for a board member that you guys came in, you got an approved building plan, and what, 6 months, 8 months, whatever it was later, Paul comes in and says, well, here's what they actually built, which it wasn't just one or two things different, it was radically different in like 8 significant respects from what had been approved.
or,
Whatever. It was significantly different. And it's clear that this building was built for the purpose that you're now talking about doing. So I guess I would say had And Motorland approached this from the standpoint of what does the ordinance say about museums? Let's get the ordinance changed before we build something. That would be completely different. That we've got, at least from my personal perspective, that there's a, I have very real concerns, and I think legitimate ones, about this organization limiting yourselves to doing what you tell us today.
But you have to base your decision on the evidence that's submitted to you, and
Mr. Austin, I understand that.
and there's no evidence submitted that this is a museum or will become a museum. The only evidence is that and this is their intent, is to use it as a display area for cars that are for sale.
Okay. Okay.
What happened to the
Yes.
relationship with the client who was gonna use the whole building for private storage?
Pardon?
What happened to the relationship with the client that was gonna use the entire building for private
He's
storage?
my business partner and co-owner of the property.
Okay, so that was gonna be for storage of the owner's vehicles and owner's vehicles.
Yes, originally.
So it wasn't a client, it was one of the owners.
At first it was a client, now an owner.
They became partners last year.
Speaking of partnerships, the town planner has raised a question. I don't know whether we need to be concerned about it or not. Is this entire property and all of these buildings owned by a single entity?
Yes.
Thank you.
We discussed that at one of the last.
I know, but things change. I wanted to ask the question
Yeah,
again.
no, and I had a meeting with Tad about that, and while he and I disagree on how the subdivision rules relate, we agreed that we would not try and have separate ownership, so one entity owns.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is a pre-application meeting. Are there, the waivers that you anticipate strictly relate to parking, or is there more, Paul?
Nope, that was just the parking scheme where Tad said, you already approached the board on it. So we tried to approach Tad, and he didn't seem to have any concerns, but he said that's something we need to come in front of the board and talk about.
So you're only asking for 2 additional parking spaces?
That's all we really needed for the calculation, because now we're changing this use to display, so it's one.
So you're not gonna be doing car repair anymore? Auto repair?
No, it's, the doors are still counted as, they haven't changed, so we still count the same, 3 spaces per bay, so we still have 7 bays. So we're still counting the bays for vehicle repair. The only thing that's changed, now we're changing the use of that building to display. If we fit 60 cars in there, we need 2 additional spaces, so originally we had 23 approved for the site. Now we need 25. The way that I configured this, we're actually providing 28.
It's the area that was used for automobile storage is the area that will be just the showroom display area during the selling season and back to storage during the off-season. The front area of the service facility will remain.
Yeah, that was,
Okay.
How much increase in impervious surface are we talking about?
I've already run the calculations for the pond, for this area entirely paved. But I haven't submitted it to the board yet, obviously, because that's the next phase.
Right.
But I already preliminary did the calculations.
But my understanding was it was gonna be a decrease from where we are today. There's more
Oh.
green than,
Well, actually, this is more impervious than we have green, but I took that into consideration. I took into consideration the whole courtyard as impervious as a down and dirty calculation way back when. Now that we're removing some green pavement here, and we're actually gonna put some green strip in there, it's gonna be less than what I previously
Okay.
calculated.
But the dimensions of the, I'm sorry, one of the things you will be asking for a waiver of are dimensional requirements for those parking spaces in front of the repair bays, is that correct?
And dimensional parking spaces for the employees.
And that's so that you can put the spaces in within the existing confines of the impervious area?
Correct.
Is it the width of the space or the,
The length.
the lane.
And your understanding, Paul, is that the tires of all the vehicles would still be on pavement? It
Correct.
would just be the front
Yes.
bumper that would hang over.
What are you gonna do with the paint shop?
It's gonna stay paint shop,
Yeah.
right?
Stays the same.
You don't need parking for a paint shop?
I counted that as one of the bays. So it's 3 spaces per bay, that was counted as one of the bays, Mike.
What is the portion of the existing building that you're removing?
It's just a shed or lean-to behind it, I don't know if you're actually familiar with that, it's kind of run down, I hate to say that, but it's a little bit of more of a run, probably the worst part of the whole project, is that run down portion of the building, so we're taking that out.
Yeah, that thing looks like it's left over from
Somebody.
RV Kenny,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
that was Kenny's RV,
He
that's where he,
was a mechanic who built an addition probably, right?
no,
Janice,
no,
do you
that's
have
where
any-
they used to
any
turn
further
around
questions
and
for
work
applicants?
and
I don't
repair
have
the
any
motorhomes.
further questions, I have a comment, and that is that, and I don't have the history that the rest of the board does. I do appreciate the comments about concern about, I guess, candor on prior occasions, but I don't have an issue with the present proposal.
Rich?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Jamie?
Nope.
Tom, Marty, anything else?
The only minor little concern is with that, the parking that's, was it 1 foot shy of requirement?
Yeah, typically it's 25 and 18, so 43.
I don't know if it's a big deal, but I just wanna look at it on my own, I'll look at it just to see. I wanna make sure we have, the authority to allow that.
The only question, Paul, I have for you is, I originally only thought there was gonna be one curb cut instead of two.
It's always been 2, right? Ever since we started the entire process. Never changed. Because
Okay,
these
okay,
two curb
okay,
cuts-
now, because that's where the turn forehand, that was where the sign was, and then we moved the sign around.
Yeah,
Okay,
that was-
okay, that's why I'm asking that question, I mean,
And is the detention pond all fully, improved and functioning?
Yep.
Okay.
Culvert's gone, ditches in.
Correct. Yeah, Tad's been there on several occasions to look it over. I actually met with Tad, it seems like a long time ago now, but probably September, I guess, so we actually went over it. So yes, it's all gone because it has been built according to the revised plan, the last revised plan.
Gentlemen, do you have any other comments or questions for the board?
I guess I just want to go back to your concern, and I understand that, we've done 2 projects. When we first acquired that, and we built the first, the cold storage warehouse there.
Yeah.
And I hope, as you may recall, that went, very smoothly, there was no issues, we complied with everything, including the last minute buffering fence that we put up literally in frozen ground in dead of January to meet your requirements. Even though Tad had told us it didn't have to be 100% buffering in multiple meetings beforehand at the last meeting. So I feel like we did that. In this last project with the new building, I recognize that there were 4 things that were done that shouldn't have been done. I don't wanna, and I accept full responsibility for that. We were working with a general contractor from Bath, who we're no longer working with, in part because of these issues. The last thing we want to do, we have, we're a growing business, we hope we're contributing to the community as well as that. We want to keep coming back to you as we're growing on that, so we don't want to have this perception or this, uneasiness. So, if we can just kind of hear your concerns and talk about it openly, that's not our intent at all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, I just thought, you're a great addition to the town, I think, we're all glad you are on board, so, it's nice to have you here.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
Paul, are you doing the next one too?
No.
I don't think there is anybody for the next one. Yeah.
Someone sign it?
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Prentice? Stentifen's an owner, who's the other owner?
And it's really hard to find out because it's an LLC.
They'll stick around to find out what you guys are up to.
That's all right.
How you been?
Good, sir, long time no see.
How's everything going?
Still there.
Yeah? Kenny doing good?
He's doing all right, I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah?
Seen him busy
Okay. So we have a proposal, is this a formal request or a pre-application?
I'm not sure what you classify it as, I think that
I think this is a pre-application.
I don't expect to ever, just to be clear on that.
I'm sorry?
I don't actually ever expect to apply. So I think maybe the understanding is that that'd be as far as it would need to go if it doesn't pass for the approval.
I think that is actually one of the first things that the board has to decide, is whether or not the approval that was given in 2004.
When I talked to Tad today, there are no plans in existence on what was done way back then.
That was my discussion with Tad, was identical to yours.
Because I thought originally that this was gonna be the reclamation where they would, put seed on and get grass and everything done. But my understanding after having talked with Tad today is that that is not the case. Rondon intends to fill that gravel pit. And once he's got it done, he's gonna put 4 inches of loam on the top and seed the entire field. And it'll be a level playing field all the way through.
That's a form of reclamation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't according to whatever that original plan would have
Right, I
been.
mean, it wouldn't be the typical,
And
but,
yeah, it's
So-
not
so-
something that we normally ask
I
for.
mean, why don't we give these guys an opportunity to describe what they're proposing to do?
Okay.
How you guys doing? Nice to meet you. I'm Jed Cook. I'm a project manager for Grondon. This is Larry Grondon, one of the owners of the company. We're currently contracted with New Rundle Cottages. We're doing some work there for them.
Some?
Some. A lot.
That's a big pile.
It'll disappear someday. That's not going in the hole, that's good gravel. We think, we know what we have for contracts now, we expect another 3 years worth of work there, and we're expecting phases beyond that, depending on the sale of homes. He has some further phases designed that I don't think are permitted, maybe they are, I don't know what the status of those are.
Don't know anything about it.
Yeah. So we've got 3 years' work there now, regardless of what. And there's a large amount of material that needs to leave that site based on the earth balance, cut and fill.
And the material is largely clay and rock.
Yep, there's a lot of rock, there's a lot of clay, there's some loamy stuff. That's basically it.
Okay.
And it's your intention to fill in the gravel pit completely?
Yeah, so that is our intention, that's what I've proposed. I propose to completely reclaim that pit area.
When you do that, given the different materials that you're gonna be moving off the cottage site and proposing to put on the Kaczynski site, is it just random truckloads that just are taken out and dumped, or is there some sort of order to it that clays goes here, rock goes here, loam goes here? And how do you guys do that so that, well, first of all, does that matter? Do you think it matters to the condition of the Kaczynski land when you're done?
It matters how we place the materials in there, yes. For the simple reason that if we put the loose stuff in the front, we kind of paint ourselves into a corner, so we would manage where we put the stuff so we can drive on it. There's only one way in and out of there. Does that
You
make
don't
sense?
fill in the back first and then work your way?
There's an area where some of it can begin to be dumped over an edge, but the stuff in the back, you need to get back there still, so you can't put a bunch of messy dirt in between and then get out to the back. So yeah, there's some rhyme or reason to how you do it, yeah.
I mean, what's the maximum lift?
I think there's probably in excess of 12-foot fills in the actual bottom of the pit.
Oh,
It may be greater than that as depicted on those contours. That's without having one right in front of you. But there's a hole there that needs to be filled in.
Okay, good. So,
But that said, I mean, it's
We've
not
got
like you're
some-
building a building on it, so you don't have to put it in a very specific way. I mean, it's
But
just
someday there might be
excess
enough.
material that we need to get rid of.
Wouldn't,
So if I just continued my historical story, I got to the part where we realized we needed to have a bunch of stuff leave the site. And we began looking for another location for that, because the grading on the site doesn't have that. And this is a potential site for us, and it's attractive, became attractive to us because of the proximity to the project. So, in my search for a place for this material that needs to be transported off-site, I'm looking for the closest place. This is the closest. The next closest place is on Downing Road across the Kennebunk line. On Emmons Extension, there's a pit there that needs to be filled in as well, so. I approached Keith Kaczynski, met with him, looked at the property. He,
Is unique.
he's unique, I have no problem communicating with him.
No.
So I met with Keith, and he said that he had filled in some based off of a building permit for his house, and he's moved in there. He's got an occupancy permit, and based off of that permit, he was allowed to bring fill in. Now that he's living there, he's not allowed to bring any more fill in under that permit. So I approached the code enforcement officer and I said, what would I need to do if I wanted to put some material in this? He said, how much? He said 100 yards is the limit for a rundle. And I said, I'm thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of 15,000 yards. And he said, you probably over my head. That's a joke. So we got talking about it, and, you
so
know,
you're saying 15,000?
15,000, yeah, I think that there's 15,000 with what I'm contracted currently. I think there's potential in that dump for greater than that. I think that there's contracts that haven't been issued yet that would need that.
Contracts within the cottages.
Correct.
Yep.
mm-hmm.
Yep.
Would the material, sorry, but.
Yeah, I just have 3 more,
No,
4 more
finish,
things
please,
to tell
yeah.
you. So I met with the code enforcement officer and discussed what would need to take place. He said that it's a large amount of material. We should talk to all the powers that be, because
it's beyond what he's allowed to issue a permit for, and that, there was some steps. So, then I spoke with Tad, planner, about the same thing. He recognized the opportunity for the town, explained to me that it's been a, ongoing problem, I guess, I don't know what you wanna call it. It's been an eyesore, and it's caused them quite a lot of work at the town hall because of, the neighbors and because of excavating companies like mine constantly asking for something similar, but, no one really making any promises to, as far as what they're gonna do, so. He led me to believe that it was something that was in the best interest of the town, and that if we wanted to talk about it with the board, that it would be worth talking about because it was favorable for the project, favorable for contractor, and favorable for the town. Then I met with, Mr. Kaczynski, I met with the whole family, talked to them about what their expectations were, talked to them about, what it would look like when I was done, what I wanted to do in there. And we basically came to agreement that I could do what I wanted to do there, and that it was up to me to, get the town's permission to do it.
What's in it for the Kaczynskis other than the possibility of cleaning up a mess that they've had an obligation to do for a long time?
It's free.
Pretty much covers it.
Just wanna make sure.
It's free. There's no exchange of money. I'm gonna give him what's valued, it's valued, very valuable to him, all the material. And the value to me is to get rid of it.
Close by.
Yeah, I don't like using the word dump, but that's what it is. I mean, I've gotta get rid of all this material that I can't use, and there's nothing unhealthy about the material that I'm putting in there. It's no, you know, nothing controlled, but it's a dump. I gotta get rid of this stuff.
So, I mean, and my understanding and inference of a situation like this it would be material that's not really suitable for Grondin to use as construction material, but could be, I mean, very suitable for, you know, fill, just general fill, lawn, you know, to reseed over, you know, things like that, not just, it doesn't have the value of gravel that they would be looking for, that would be valuable to them.
Looks like,
My biggest problem right now is huge boulders left over from the blasting, and they're of a size that it's not economical, or it's not worth it to break them into gravel. They have a structural value when you place them in a hole. They're
Cosmetic, they have a cosmetic value.
They have a cosmetic, but they also have a structural value. I mean, you could park a truck on them if you could drive it on there. They're not clay, but I can't use them. If I break them into smaller pieces, I could make gravel, but it costs me too much to do that. They need to go, so I have some trucks that could go in the hole.
The planner indicated that there had been, I'm not even sure what the right words are, but that the existing pit had been dug deeper than it should have been, and had actually gotten into the groundwater. Is there water, is this pond that I'm seeing on that, is that pond the bottom of the pit?
I don't know if that's groundwater or not. There is water in there, and I do plan to fill it in and
Okay.
grade over that.
Okay.
I don't know if that's groundwater. I don't know about the over digging of the pit. I don't know what's coming from
You know
I
history.
understand that.
You don't have the history.
Oh, one other question, I'm gonna bounce around a little bit. If you'll forgive me, I do that sometimes.
That's okay. I think I got most of my historical part of what got me to here.
Okay.
Did I explain myself right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, one of the questions had to do with the road. I've spoken with the town planner and with Roger Teshero. The rules the roads in Arundel.
Right.
And the bottom line, I wanna throw this out, obviously other board members should chime in, but, Roger's take is that, it's a public road, there's a lot of construction traffic that uses this stretch of Campground Road. You got Bentley Warren and Mr. Labby and lots of other people that are using it as well. And that, what Roger may want to do is extend, depending on weather conditions, extend the period of time that road is posted. But that, any special restrictions on Grondon for moving this particular fill wouldn't be fair, in a context when there are lots of other contractors running really heavy trucks over the same stretch of road.
Well, and to think about that logically, if they were to go to the alternative location off of Downing Road in
We
Kennebunk,
have no control over
they're
that
gonna
at
go
all.
right down Campground Road, they're gonna go furthermore down on Limerick Road, and then down the Arundel stretch of Downing Road.
Yeah.
Well, frankly, if there's road posting, we'll on it.
Oh, no,
We
We're not
have
experts.
no question about that, no,
I'm
it's just, Ted.
I went and met with Roger.
Yeah, I'm just letting you know that I spoke with him this afternoon, and we don't want the road destroyed, obviously.
Nobody does.
But, no, it's not good for anybody. But it doesn't sound like anything special. My position, I don't know the rest of the board, my position is that there should be no additional hardship imposed on Grondon for using this road, because there are lots of other people that are using it already.
Yeah, we appreciate you recognizing that. That was one of our,
And
One of
and
our-
so
Yeah,
I just wanted to.
If he wants to post the road to August, let him post the road to August, but he's not gonna post the road to March and then say, you guys can't drive on it.
all right. I met with Roger in my discussions. Tad suggested that I go talk to him.
I know.
Okay. And basically, we don't wanna drive on posted roads. We plan on being in Rundle. We're hoping for 6 years, working on those cottages if it happens, and we don't wanna.
I thought originally you guys were gonna put in some kind of a tote road out in the back that went through.
That was a pipe dream.
Was it? Okay. Well, we heard about that pipe treatment.
I looked into that.
Then we shot down
because,
the marijuana law, so you can't have a pipe
There
treatment.
was a couple places where we could come straight through the woods and use heavy off-road trucks.
Yeah.
There's some seriously strange,
Wetlands back there?
no,
No,
boundaries.
Boundaries.
There's some seriously strange boundaries out there. I don't know what it was. It looks, I don't understand. It's near impossible to get permission from, there's literally 10-foot wide strips
Yeah,
of land out
many
there that
strips, yeah.
are owned by, I don't know who. So it became restrictive to do it that way. We did look into it because it would be much faster, less expensive, and.
And you wouldn't be on the road.
I can
We're
explain
on
it
the
to
road,
you.
yeah.
It's a bad surveyor. I've got a gourd that's 18 inches wide and almost 300 feet long that goes in between two people's property.
Yeah.
I don't want to own it. Anyway.
Am I
Okay.
in the butter?
Some of those.
No,
Am I in the butter?
You know, if you were to work straight through, how long would it take you to transport all this material?
I wanna immediately move 10,000 yards in there. And I believe that I have a window between, I'm hoping it starts tomorrow morning or Monday with your permission, but I have a window between then and when the roads are posted. And when we do our projections for road postings, we usually plan on the second week of February to be conservative. So I have a small amount of time, and I'm gonna commence to try to get what I can before that day. Once that day comes, I'm gonna have other operations on the site. I don't think I can move 10,000 yards in there in 5 weeks. I think I could probably do 5 pretty easy. A lot of the boulders are huge, and you can get 3 of them on a truck.
Right.
So it's a long day.
what?
And they're heavy.
What
They are very heavy.
How are you going to, as you're laying the material down, these big boulders, obviously we don't want sinkholes. Are you gonna have an engineer help,
Settling.
help you with the distribution of material and how to, I don't know, but I'm assuming you would want a bed of something first and then drop the boulders into it and.
We have a mix of materials coming at the same time, so there's some large boulders that'll go down, and there's also finer stuff that's gonna be in there. There's gonna be a bulldozer pushing it around, and as we work our way across this site,
Building your footing.
yeah,
You build it so that you wouldn't create voids.
yeah, you build it.
So you're gonna have bulldozer traffic going
You have
over,
bulldozer, but you
you
also
know.
create truck traffic, which
Right.
gives you, as you back your trucks and it grows, your trucks are always coming across it, and that helps with a lot of that. So, yeah, we build it so that it's
Supported.
so that you
Yeah.
get that
There won't be any
non-construction
voids.
grade
there won't be any
compaction.
You're just
voids.
putting grass on
sinkholes.
it. Yeah.
Only question that I may have a thought of, because I think across the way, okay, not from stands, okay, but across the way, there is like an aquifer around that area, okay? Being so, with the clay probably would seal some of the penetration of natural waters or anything else. Is clay usually, how would you let it breathe so it can settle at the same time without plugging it up with?
One of my
Or
concerns
above
about
the
not
groundwater,
having,
so we won't be
you know,
affected.
one of my concerns about not having an engineer do this is that I know a tiny bit about closing a landfill. I don't know anything about closing a gravel pit, okay? When you close a landfill, you want clay, well, you want clay as a liner, and then you want clay over the top of it too, as a seal.
This is nothing like a lake.
Well, there are some parallels, particularly if the groundwater has been, I don't know.
Contaminated, no,
Does it-
over there it hasn't been
Excavated
contaminated.
Excavated into the ground, into the water table. And
Okay.
I don't, so I don't know whether it's better to seal the bottom of it with clay first, whether it's better to fill it all with gravel and make sure that it is permeable, I literally don't know.
I think the material is basically irrelevant. Any permitting you do for a gravel pit requires a minimum 2 feet of separation, most commonly it's 5 feet. So it's more the separation from the top and bottom of the excavation to the ground level, the groundwater. So, and, you know, we'll be restoring any over excavation, which is good.
How are you gonna restore it then? You're gonna do it with clay,
Fill it in.
fill it in with clay first?
It's gonna be all kinds of different materials. It could be straight rock.
I think,
It'll be a mix of materials.
yeah, I think what you're asking is if there's a impervious layer between what's there and what we fill in, but I think it may be.
Is it on the top, is it on the bottom? Yeah, I'm sorry,
I
that
think
is
it
what,
may
that
all-
is what I'm
I
asking.
think since the pit is already holding water, it may already be impervious. So that what we fill in is above that impervious layer, otherwise if it was a sandy material, that pit wouldn't have the water standing in it that it does.
Except the dug down into the water table.
We don't know that, do we?
We don't know that, the town planner speculated that. I guess we got a dilemma, gentlemen, because Grandin is a very, very short time window. And it seems to me that filling in this gravel pit, which should have been filled in by the property owners, and it wasn't, is a benefit to the abutting property owners. Apparently there are erosion problems, and the like. At the same time, I personally, I feel a whole lot more comfortable with an engineering plan for, in effect, closing
You know, Chip,
the gravel pit, but maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill on that.
you know, Chip, if the Kaczynskis had done what they were supposed to have done a long time ago, they wouldn't be doing it according to an engineering plan, and God knows what they would have been doing. I think it's somewhat grating that, at the end of the day here, they sort of would have gotten away with not doing what they were supposed to do. But I think it's fortunate we have a company
Like
Rondon,
Yeah.
that's gonna be making the situation better, making the situation, be addressed appropriately. And these guys are gonna be back before us again another time for other reasons. So I'm sure the job that they do on this would be a good one.
I
And we'll
agree.
fix those erosion problems if there are. That's part of the deal.
What are you only, is this material only going to be coming from the Arundel seasonal cottages? Or is there a possibility you'd be bringing material from other jobs also?
I'd like the option of other jobs. I wanna make sure that if I promise the town and the Kaczynskis to fill that to those grades, and let's just say we weren't the lower bidder on the next phase of that project, I'm still beholden to the Kaczynskis in the town on that. I also think that, there's been some talk about a sewer project that may require the services of that, so that's something that our company would definitely be interested in contracting to do. And that would technically, excuse me, that would also technically be another contract as well, so.
I'm looking at it from the point of view, you guys have got one of the best reputations around.
Thanks, sir.
I don't have a problem if you bring it in from someplace else. You're fixing a problem that the town of Arundel has, and there's no other way to get it fixed. So I don't have a problem if it all comes out of seasonal cottages, more power to you, but if you need to get it from another source, I really don't have a problem with that. Because you are solving a problem that is 20-plus years as an ongoing situation. My only concern, I don't know if we issue a permit or however that works, but I would like reassurances that that is never gonna be dug again.
Well, the other question I have also along the way, through their creativeness of correcting a situation, is that land, okay, that would be filled or whatever else that, is that gonna be able to be used for future residential?
Yeah, that's a good question, Marty. That was one of my concerns that prompted my very first question to these guys.
Well, I mean, that,
It's not gonna just stay treed if this town is gonna grow some, you know.
yeah, I understand that they're doing it, the other party is not receiving anything or compensation, but because there was one time or another when they put that house there, which is along the pit, there was, we'll say, some serious discussion, okay? And that was from Stan himself with the town. And, but it has been there and it's a house, whoever lives there now or whatever else not. But there is quite a large acreage here of this property, and I'm not sure exactly how many acres we're speaking totally of the pit size, but is that gonna be developed for future?
That's, you know, that's a
No,
good
I'm just
question.
saying.
Marty, I think it's a great question, but I don't have your crystal ball.
I don't have
And-
crystal
and
balls,
I-
they're dead.
And I know that I don't ever wanna have anything built there, but I also understand that that's what I want, but that's not what I can guarantee that I'll get. At some point in time, somebody may very well come along and say that they wanna build there, but I think as long as it's noted in the town records,
Right.
that this is, you guys need to understand, this was a gravel pit and you're going to build on top of it.
I think I can answer your original question and yours and address that, but I think, you asked if there was gonna be any guarantee that he wouldn't later do something in there. And I think, once you fill this in and seed over it, for him to do something, he would need to come get your permission anyways, in the way that a planning board would work, right? If you wanted to build a house, you'd have to have a building permit.
But that doesn't, for building a house doesn't come through the planning board.
Right.
Right.
That way, he'd have to go through the town.
But he would
Which-
have to go through the
And
town.
that's where I think it's
So somebody
great
can-
that, you know, this is gonna be all documented, because he goes to the town, you know, somebody goes to the town, code enforcement officer looks to pull a permit, and they say, time out, we're not sure
Yeah,
what
I
kind
think
of soil
that
material you have.
what you guys were also asking about, if somebody wants to plant a house, and that one was close to the edge of where the old pit was,
Yeah,
they would want some geotechnical information about
Yep.
where they were gonna place the house or whatever.
Is
There's
there-
places there that would be fine, and there's places there that would definitely be questionable.
Is there a way the town has of flagging something like that, like 40, 80 years from now? Because the issue will still be there. If someone goes in for a permit, do those things jump out?
No disrespect to the future
Marty
generations.
won't know.
No disrespect to future generations, but I don't plan to be serving on this board.
Yeah,
anymore.
so it's- can't see it from my house.
I'm gonna be out there with Phil.
I think in historical aerial photography would
I think so,
pick
yeah.
right up on something like that.
Okay, a couple
Did I answer all three of those? I think I kind of.
I think you did, a
Getting
couple nitpicky questions here. Does anybody know if 4 inches of topsoil is
It's
What
pretty
do you-
standard reclamation.
standard reclamation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
What about trees or shrubs in addition to just,
well, yeah, let's put it this way, they only can grow after it's filled in, okay?
yeah,
But the fact is, trees will grow and develop their own root systems in ledge, through ledge, or whatever else not. So, for landscaping purposes, there
I'm
is,
not worried about landscaping, I'm worried about just erosion control.
the rocks and filling in the pit is your erosion control by itself.
Okay.
So it won't wash banks down.
Okay, in your letter to, well, to the planning board, to us, you have said, only material approved by RJ Grundy. Does that mean there could be material being brought in by other contractors?
Not without my approval.
But with your approval, it could
Yeah.
mean that.
Yep.
Is everybody
So-
okay
so
with that?
my
We're
thought-
okay with it as long as we know what the materials are.
Well, and that's where I was going, is that's really my only request to these guys would be to notify the code enforcement or the planner if you were bringing in material that wasn't from the cottage site.
Well, yeah, I actually was gonna ask, would it be a hardship to keep a record of the material that's delivered?
Where it came from?
Just,
I think where it
just
came
something
from
gen-
might be,
just
might
something
be
general and
more.
general and where it came from.
I'm gonna use Phil as an example, but I know that it wouldn't happen, but we're giving you a permit to fill in this pit. If Phil goes out there with his trucks to dump stuff and the codes enforcement officer sees him, he may not know that Phil has permission to be out there, and it may create issues. So I think if you said to somebody else here, you check with us, you tell us what you're bringing out, and we'll let you bring it, you should notify the town so that whoever that person is doesn't find themselves between a rock and a hard place when they go dump that stuff off.
No offense to Phil,
But you wouldn't ask him.
if he asked me, he wouldn't like what I would charge him to dump it there. Because I need all the space for myself.
That's
I
fine.
need all
and
the space
that's
for
fine.
myself, and I,
Oh, okay,
Yeah. I wouldn't want anybody else to come in
another
there.
question, your hours of operation, proposed hours of operation are 6 AM to 9 PM, Monday through Saturday.
We're from 7 in the morning until what? 4 or 5 in the afternoon? What do we do for the, I don't know what we do on the other
I
end.
thought weekdays and Saturdays were different.
What I would suggest is that they follow
We'll
our
just
gravel
follow the
pit,
standard noise ordinance.
our gravel pit, hours of operation, that,
Yeah,
whatever
that's
they are in the
Right,
ordinance.
I will tell you that apparently some of the neighbors have been organized in the past. Please don't have a group of angry neighbors coming in here saying that you're.
We are very motivated to make this work.
I understand, you can understand why I'm asking, all right? Okay.
So
Well,
when I,
gentlemen, so I guess what we need to do a couple of things. We need to decide whether or not we want, formal engineering. We need to decide whether or not we want a conditional use permit application, or if we can hang our hats on the 2004 permit. I'm on it, I wish the town planner were here. I don't know what is in the.
I mean, based on what I
land use
see,
ordinance.
this is in the R1 district. And in the R1 district, as a permitted use, is the filling and earth moving activity of greater than 10 cubic yards, but less than 100. So I guess, conditional use, filling and earth moving
Yeah,
of greater than
it is
100.
It is a conditional use.
I think we're sort of obligated to follow that procedure.
So we have to follow, okay,
Yeah.
then that takes us to, Grognon apparently had a conditional use permit issued for this pit in 2004.
Okay.
However, there's no documentation for it.
But it would have
Far as I
expired
know.
at this point.
Okay,
Right.
so what, gentlemen,
Well, the next question is,
I wanna.
I expedite this.
We
I'm
would
just trying to figure
love
out
that.
I'm just trying to figure out
Yes, anyway.
I'm just trying to figure out how to do it.
Between now and February is coming up real fast.
Yeah.
That's what, and to expedite this, because we don't need to hold another public hearing and postpone this for another month, and then they're caught short.
Well,
I mean,
I'm afraid that I don't see how we can hang our hat on a 14-year-old conditional use permit.
Now, what did the Board of Selectmen say?
What do they have to do with it?
Well, because it's, half of this was a result of former, ignorement from town manager and the selectmen and everything else of not proceeding.
My understanding, if you watched your email, I firmly requested for the second or third time a copy of a consent agreement.
My server's been down since they've been playing Route 1.
Okay, but the bottom line is, as far as Tad can tell, that was talked about, the lawyers may have even gotten together at a table, but no document was ever produced or signed.
Or
So there's
refused
no,
to be
was there
signed.
no directive then, Chip, for the Kaczynskis to fill it?
I'm sorry?
Was there a directive that they fill it, or was there there was a permit allowing them to fill it? I mean, what-
No,
what-
No, there was a,
they were required to fill it, they did not fill it. The town chose to ignore their violation of the requirement to fill it.
So the requirement nonetheless still exists, correct?
Yes.
And
That's
why is a permit necessary?
That's where,
That's the question.
I like the question.
So why?
I like his question too.
Well,
That's where I was
that's
headed.
why we're glad to be able
I
to
mean, if it
lawyer on
was
the
allowed
board
to
now.
be a pit in the first place, then
But
Reclamation
my-
is
my
thereby
under-
required.
My understanding of the chronology of
That's
that,
right.
of events is that several permits were issued to get gravel out of this pit. The owners got gravel pursuant to those permits and not pursuant to the permits as well. They were informed by the town that they needed to cease operations and reclaim the pit. They did not do that. There was talk about a consent agreement between the town and the property owners to get it closed and built back in. And for whatever reason, the town did not follow through with that. It's my current understanding. I wasn't here, I wasn't a participant, but, so.
Well, we can make-
One way to look at this might, I'm gonna try to frame your question as a statement. The property owner, the Kaczynskis, are still, as far as we know, under an obligation to fill in this gravel pit in a responsible manner.
Yeah.
Is that a reasonable statement, gentlemen?
Yeah,
Okay.
it has to be reclaimed.
Okay, so, these gentlemen are proposing to do that at no cost to the town or the abutting property owners, correct?
As agents of position.
As agents of the property owner who would be finally fulfilling an obligation that dates back more than 14 years.
So you let me know what you think of this. I wanna make a motion that since the Kaczynskis were required to reclaim that pit, and that they have entered into an agreement with R.J. Grondin to do that reclamation, that we approve it as being in accordance with the original plan. And they can go and they can fill that hole.
the only thing I might say is,
Hold on, time out. No, we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
We have a second.
I'll
Thank
second.
you. Some discussion, please, Mr. King.
the question is on the word plan, okay? We do not,
We don't have a plan.
that's where I'm coming at is,
That's true, we don't have one, but we do know that at some point in time, they got a permit that allowed them to do that.
And we
And
do
we
have
have
A copy of what Tad gave us for the notice of decision 2004. We don't have a graphical plan, but there is the plan to earth move, we got permission to fill. And it does, some of it might be slightly different, I think it was 7,000 square yards, but that wouldn't have been filling it, it would have just been the sloping. So we'd be going beyond that, which is the problem. But other than that, I don't see any discrepancy. It does say the hours of operation here between 7 and 6 PM, so maybe could work with both
I think,
hours.
I think what you need to do is talk with Ted, look at the current land use ordinance rules on current, not 2004, on hours of operation, and follow that.
Absolutely.
But we still have to decide, do we need to go through the formal approval process, conditional approval or not? And your motion.
I personally don't think that we do need to go through the process, because a conditional use permit was, several conditional use permits were issued starting in at least 1986
Yeah.
to use this property as a gravel pit. And all we're talking about here is finishing the job.
And if you think
That
about
was,
it,
that was already permitted repeatedly in the past.
if it wasn't Grondin, but it was Kaczynski coming in with a plan to do it,
Yeah.
it would be crazy to say no.
Right.
So,
Right.
you say, so this
But actually,
is.
if Kaczynski came in, I would wanna have a fully engineered conditional use permit.
Yeah, but this is an agent that we know will do the job.
That's right.
So, and as
Okay,
far as,
so while we have a motion, we have a second, any
Can we
further
restate the motion, and who seconded, please?
Okay,
The-
Richard's
the
motion.
Yep,
was that given that the Kaczynskis had a plan that required reclamation of this gravel pit, and that they have entered into an agreement with R.J. Grondin to fill the gravel pit and meet the requirements of reclamation, that we allow them to do so.
And I seconded it.
and,
thank you.
I'm just for discussion purposes.
Being under a directive from the town. As a matter of historical fact, I thought it did.
Oh, I don't remember. It could be, I forget exactly.
You definitely worded it different the second time.
Yeah, I know I did, it's because I
I'll-
can't remember.
I'll second it either way.
Okay.
Okay, and I just want, as chairman, my interpretation is what we are doing is confirming that this is part of multiple conditional use permits that were issued in 1986, 1992, 1993, and that there was reclamation required in 2003, which I don't think was completed. So this doesn't, my take is we don't require a new permit because there already was a conditional use permit for a gravel pit, and part of operating a gravel pit is filling it in when you're done with it.
Yeah.
Through the chair, through the chair,
Yes, sir.
can I ask another thing, is that allowing them to do so, but can we specify anything that, for the future, that it will be in the records that non-development of over the gravel pit is not because of them?
I would like to,
That isn't fair.
in a perfect
Okay.
world, Marty, I would like to require that there be a notation in the Kaczynski's deed that it had been a gravel pit. But we certainly don't have the, I don't think we have the power to do that, and I don't think.
Okay, then if I'm wrong, I'm wrong,
I
I
don't
mean,
think we have
that's
that
why.
mechanism.
We don't have that mechanism, and I think net, this is
Win-win.
a benefit to the town and to the, if I were one of the neighbors, I guess I will repeat my entreaty to you. Please don't have neighbors calling the town hall, okay? That's the one thing I'll say.
All right, do we have to take a vote?
So we have to have a vote, I guess. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
I abstain.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Go
you.
fill that pit
What,
How soon can we
What-
start?
tomorrow morning.
tomorrow,
Perfect.
yeah.
That's the plan.
And talk to Roger about the roads anytime you have a question, okay?
We will.
all right, you had,
We will communicate with the
I've had a
neighbors.
dialogue with Roger about that.
Yeah.
He's got my card, and now that we have permission to do this, I plan to, meet with him again and the site superintendent, so we know if you recommend the call.
Phil? you
All
have a
right,
question?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Labby had a question, I think.
I just wanted to thank the board for making this happen. We've cured a 20-year problem in this town. We're the premier company that we all know is gonna do what they say they're gonna do. And I will report to the whole board how it went, and I'm sure everybody will be pleased with it. Thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. Labby, I appreciate that support, I genuinely do. Okay, other business. I am certain that the town planner wanted to talk about the SMPDC, but I don't.
What is that?
It's the planning and development thing, Southern Maine Planning and Development,
I'm not the
something.
boss, so it really doesn't.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. No, this is money that we paid out to do something.
$1,300 and some odd dollars to be part of their,
Southern Maine Planning and Development Commission.
Is that the main?
I don't understand why this is us and not the selectmen.
This is not us. I don't see how we can possibly approve this.
We don't have the money. We
We
don't
don't have a budget.
We don't have the power to spend money.
We don't have a
Oh,
budget.
Speaking of a budget, I wanted to give one to Keith. He said if we give him a budget, that he'll cut it up into little pieces, but then he'll give it to the selectmen.
Do you have some numbers to go by?
I was thinking about $6,000 for supplies, $4,000 for printing, and $10,000 for legal fees, and then I'd have to figure out what.
Then we need 20,000 for legal fees.
We probably do, but I figured I'd shoot low.
We got that, what we got going already, I mean,
At least we'd
Well,
have, at least we'd have our own legal budget. So we could say, yes, we wanna go forward with this, or we wanna do something
Instead of
else.
saying the selectmen don't wanna look into
That's
it.
right. We have a legal budget that we would be able to spend.
I really see that as a double-edged sword.
It could be.
Where the selectmen could say, well, you've already spent your money this year, and we're certainly not appropriating anything extra to help you.
because how many times have we said we
Have
need
they
legal?
helped us yet?
How many times have we asked Sharon for legal,
I'm not answering
Art.
that, Tate.
or how many times has Tad asked for legal, interpretation,
Mhm.
okay?
And that gets paid for by the town when.
Right,
when they
that's,
do it.
that's what I'm saying is, you know, interpretation is one factor, but I mean, where do we, and if anything else has come up legally wise, but turn out, the other thing is, you could also do it in your budget, okay? It was suggested to have laptops that would cut out the paperwork.
Yep,
I mean,
that's it, that's what the supplies would be for, to get
May-
tablets or something.
May I remind the board of a couple of years ago at town meeting when a certain citizen wanted to put a pay cut for the town planner into the general appropriation for,
Mhm.
for the town, but somehow specifically earmark it to make the town planner a part-time position. I fear that the planning board having its own budget is just opening us up to a risk of
Of not having.
of being unfunded at town meeting, or having a situation where we are pursuing legal action that the Board of Selectmen doesn't wholeheartedly support, and we run out of money.
Okay.
Which could easily, Rich, I see both sides of it,
I understand, I don't care, I wanted to bring it up because I was thinking of going to keep with it. One of the things I would like to do in there, though, is to take a look at the salaries and say, we're gonna get paid for these sidewalks. Don't tell me that I have to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning and climb out of a nice warm bed and go hang out someplace and nobody shows up. And we're scheduled for a sidewalk. We should be paid for a sidewalk. The selectmen get paid every time they do something. They get paid well compared to what we get paid.
well, I mean,
We
their
don't-
rep meetings will last a third
We
as
need-
long as ours, so.
We need to get more
let's-
money because they raised the minimum wage.
Yeah, that's a point.
Okay, gentlemen, can we get back to the
Okay.
SMPBC?
So I should not go to Keith with a budget?
No, not yet.
No.
Okay.
My take is that this is, the benefits listed include grant writing for CDBG grants and a newsletter and census information and floodplain and shoreline zoning assistance and business development. I say we just.
We don't get much out of it.
Throw it to the Board of Selectmen, if they wanna join it, great.
Well, are we already a member?
I don't.
I believe
I
we
think
are
we are.
currently members.
Yeah, and
And
they're,
now they're looking to, it's
Right.
annual renewal time. but
Right.
This is something that.
To whom does the benefit that they are offering inure directly?
yeah,
Tad directly.
pretty much town and the TAD and the board,
And to who-
as they provide guidance over.
No,
And
one of the,
who is Tad's direct supervisor?
Keith,
Keith.
and one of the things
And
they,
isn't the question for Keith and not for us?
well, the letter's addressed to Keith. And in fact, one of the key benefits they keep mentioning is their cooperative buying program, which is gonna benefit the town,
Yeah.
not us.
You can kick it back, kick it to Keith
I,
and say.
I think
handle it.
Keith, you
I don't
know,
think so.
Make a decision.
Yeah.
I
Keith's
hope
the
he,
town
and I hope he,
manager.
hope he goes along with it, because if it's a good thing for Tad, then I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry I stepped out. How did this end up in front of us?
I have no idea, it was in my packet.
It wasn't in mine, I didn't see it.
I didn't have it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind, maybe it was just information for the,
Yeah.
okay. Do we have any other business?
We have a meeting in 2 weeks? The 25th, right?
I believe so. If there's,
Anything, other news?
There is something that we're going to have to look at. The doggy daycare passed. And it passed handily, despite the fact that there is no longer a setback. They eliminated the 50-foot, based on her ordinance, the 50-foot setback goes away, so you can build right on the line. And most of the citizens said, well, no, we need to fix that, but we'll fix it later. Or the planning board can fix it for the June meeting. So I think that's something that we need to look at, or we can just say, hey, you know, that's not a problem, we'll leave it right where it is, and if you wanna build on the property line, go ahead.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Let her build there.
I would very much like to take the ordinance as it exists currently and bring something back to the town meeting on June 3rd, or June whatever it is,
You have the ordinance.
and I'm aware that I have.
We all have, no, we all have the new one, because this was updated as of the town meeting.
Right, but what I'm saying is I would very much like to go back to town meeting, and we also need to go back with screening and buffering, and I don't know how we get around the Kennebunkport Conservation Trust people
Yeah.
who live in
Well,
Rundle.
hold on. I'm gonna take offense to that right off the bat,
Yes.
because I took offense to Tad's email right off the bat.
What do you mean?
They were, the email he sent out with the results of that night.
Okay, I
Those
never
people who may be affiliated with that were not acting, as I understand, on behalf of that organization.
Well, if you had been here, they were. They were discussing specifically the parking lot and the buffering requirements
the-
for ACT.
Person I spoke to said she made it clear that she said she was not speaking on behalf of that.
She did not make the.
I don't remember that.
She did not, Jens and
Okay.
I were the two that were there.
All right.
She did not make that clear. In fact, she specifically commented on the fact that it was based on the fact that they want to put a parking lot down here with the,
Yeah.
with the trailers.
Right. Okay, well, and I understand there was two people that spoke, and I may have spoken to the other. I don't know.
Could be.
Okay, I'm sorry for the characterization. The fact of the matter is, the screening and buffering language that is currently in the document is, in my mind, confusing and It's not good.
Tad tried to explain, basically, the only thing we were doing was taking it out of all these different areas and putting it in one place. And they didn't like that idea, so now it's back to being scattered all
Well,
over.
and,
Now,
and
here's the
and
thing,
the
though,
individual
you know-
that I spoke to, I think she was essentially, you know, not, I don't know if she was apologizing, but really saying she didn't think she didn't mean to cause such an uproar over items that were already in the ordinance and then consolidating them in, was trying to ask some questions and probably made a little more of an issue than she intended, just to try and understand what was going on.
It would be
I think it's
better.
very unfortunate that the points that Tad has made, I thought quite clearly, just weren't resonating with this crowd. They just didn't get it. I think they were worked up about the dog property, and that carried through to other issues that evening.
I wasn't there, but
His
could,
explanations were were quite clear.
They were.
I understand what you were saying, I wasn't there, but turn around, but like the setback for doggy daycare, okay? And we're speaking about buffering, that turnaround contradicts the idea of any buffering with the 50-foot setback.
It does.
I mean, just listening to what was going on, that can construe.
Well, they
But
brought up.
the problem with this whole, the way this process works with the petition is that the petition, no matter how badly written, might have 3 good things in it, but the rest of it be terribly written. A good example is the marijuana referendum, which you might think it's good or bad, but the fact is, it's bad legislation because of the way it was written. And so I think we should make it a priority to address dog daycare. And for example, I think either there is a requirement that the operator of the dog daycare have some kind of training related to canines, not horses, not reptiles, not birds, but canines, or there's simply no requirement. Because an iguana trainer is no more qualified than I am to run a doggy daycare. So either we take it out completely, or we put in something that makes sense. And the fence height requirement, I feel very strongly about the fence height requirement, because the manufacturer who patented coyote rollers specifies a minimum fence height of 6 foot to keep coyotes out. Coyotes only stand about this high. So there's plenty.
We should revisit that, we need to tweak some of that. But
Well, the way the ordinance stands right now, the way it was written and the way it passed at town meeting on Monday night, it conflicts with itself, almost, in almost every area.
She still has to come before us for
She does.
review, so we have to work through those conflicts. It's gonna be a little tricky.
The fact is that we
Well,
had
the faster we
the
get
other
that.
lady who was opening the training and everything else. She also gave some very good points about training. And,
I'm not trying to decide
no,
that
no, no,
tonight.
no, well, I'm agreeing with you, Chip.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is about the iguana or the horse and doggy day are 3 different circles. I mean, but like she said, even to get some type of training even online is at least give somebody a more open view of something than just mommy decides to who's never been around dogs before is gonna
But
be a babysitter.
But what was passed on Monday night, unfortunately, you have to have a certification as a professional trainer of some kind of animal. It doesn't matter what kind of animal, but some kind of animal. And that is nonsense to me. It should either be no training required or training relating to dogs.
Agreed.
And we can decide that later.
But we
But,
need to look at it.
but I think, my point is, we need to tackle both of those things sooner rather than later, and the buffering and screening, we clearly need to do some kind of public relations work before.
Well, I think it was the fact that these two things are happen to have been on the same night.
Yeah.
Because there was an emotional undercurrent here, and kind of almost of a palpable hostility toward the board.
You're gonna vote down anything that we,
Well, there was a particular individual who sat over here on the corner, and every time he had anything to say, it was negative.
oh, the board,
Negative about everything.
yeah.
You know, you're interfering with commerce, you're interfering with the rights of individuals, you're interfering with the sun coming up in the east. That's,
And there was an antagonism of the board toward applicants. Generally.
Well, I think I had an issue
Which
with.
we've just demonstrated
Chip,
amply, I think.
If I could finish, in the press, there was a few articles you might have read. Anybody read anything about it?
no,
We were thrown under the bus by the town manager, and it was on video, but for the applicants say, all we did was obstruct her from getting a business running, and the town manager said, yeah, that's the way the board acts, or something like that, and the board needs to change. Did you guys read that?
no, he didn't say that.
I'll make copies.
Okay, please
Oh,
do,
yeah.
because he didn't say that.
It was in the paper.
He
so-
didn't
That
say that.
doesn't mean he said
I
it.
know.
The press lady came over and wanted to ask me some questions,
Well, we
and I
should-
refused to answer them. I said, I don't talk to the press. And she said, well, you said this during the meeting, you can.
That-
you
it was
We
can
should
just-
dispute
ask him
that."
about it then.
We should ask him. It was another article, when it was, it was a similar article about 4 weeks ago, and there was the same quotes from Keith. And it just
They probably
surprised
took
me
it
that
from one to the other.
it could have been just copied, yeah. So I'll copy that.
Please send that to everybody,
Yeah, but
because
email it out to us.
I would
I'd
like
see
to
it.
have a
Right.
talk with Keith. My sense is that Keith is supportive of the board.
That's what I always thought. It seemed-
And that he is savvy enough about small town politics not
Not to do something like that.
not
but-
to throw the board under the bus. And if my assessment is incorrect, I would very much like to know that.
I'm glad I brought it up because I thought, I
Yeah.
just assumed everybody
Mm-mm.
had probably into
Can you,
Yeah, it was in the Kennybunk Post.
Kennebunk Post,
Yeah, just last week, so.
before the meeting?
It was before the
Yeah,
meeting, yeah, it would have been. It was actually, an article announcing the upcoming meeting, and just a few.
Yeah, and that the one that had what was the title? Something Doggies and Dime Bags on the front page of the Post?
I don't remember. Dime bags.
Yeah, it was like, really?
Anything else?
Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Second, wanna turn the camera off?
All those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. We're closed.
Here we go.